Oh.
Your family supports it, and it is your birthright. Please don't decline this offer.
Hi guys, you are welcome to another episode of Relufe Review, a show where we objectively review the Nigerian art, music, movies, and of course entertainment in general. Like I always say, before I forge ahead, please note that everything that you hear me say here is all my personal opinion and my personal bias. On that note, my name is AY with the double O, and let's get right into the movie for today.
Kò lè jáde kó ń bẹ̀ yẹn láàyè. Ibi tí ó kù sí ló dé o. Ifá sọ̀rọ̀ àfi kí kábíyèsí ó kan ilẹ̀kùn méje.
What are you saying? Why didn't they tell you this?
Adédùnjoyè, ká ṣe é pé ìwọ ti ṣe ohun tí bá fi ọ̀ ṣe ni. Ohun tó ṣẹlẹ̀ sílùú òní ṣẹlẹ̀ sí mi.
I don't want to hear it.
Fẹ́ kó o gbé ọ̀pá lọ bá Adédùnjoyè lórí ìtẹ́. Yóò kú ọmọ ọba lọ sọ́run alákeje mi ò ní lè korí ìtẹ́ bàbá mi.
Ọjà mi dà! Gbé padà! Ẹ̀wọ̀n náà ni ọ́! Ẹ̀wọ̀n gbogbo ìlànà! Òṣàkójú kí ni tí mo ṣe? Mo ṣe dé mi. Kábíyèsí bàbá ńlá tiyín bí ogun ní à ń mú oyè ọba jíjẹ nílùú Ìlara. Ogun wo ló tún kù?
Lọ́dún wo?
Kábíyèsí. Mo ní ogun wo ló tún kù?
Béèrè lọ́wọ́ rẹ ni.
The movie we are going to be reviewing today is titled Seven Doors. And please pardon my voice, it's the weather. And of course, because of Seven Doors, I will weather the weather. This one has got nothing on me. So Seven Doors is a Netflix movie. It's a series on Netflix in 6 episodes, and it was written and produced by Femi Adebayo. And one thing I would say that Femi Adebayo doesn't do is that it doesn't disappoint. Anything that you watch Femi Adebayo produce is always a masterpiece, from Jago Jago to other movie productions that he has done in the past. And in recent times, I'll say that I don't know where he went to or what he went to do. You know, there's a way you go and refuel and then you come back. And I think Femi Adebayo is in that era right now. He's really in his most creative self. And I would say that he should just make the most use of it right now, because whatever it is that he's doing is working just well. So Seven Doors tells the story of Onilara of Ilara Kingdom. It's more on a particular kingship, the Onilara of Ilara Kingdom, which was played by Femi Adebayo. It was the main Onilara of Ilara in the movie, known as Oba Adedunjoye. And his wife, Amaka, Chioma Chikuka, played the role of Amaka. And I like that they allowed her be herself, you know, in the movie without trying to force the Yoruba theme on her. So she played the Igbo role and she was Amaka's wife, and they were blessed with 2 kids. So for Seven Doors, they opened the scene up with 7 women being thrown down via a spell, you know, sort of. You'd see that it's like their head was being called upon or something, and then they fell from the top of a hill sort of into the water. And I like the effect of that, of them falling. Actually looked so real, and thumbs up to Akim Effect for that beautiful makeup for them. So for Seven Doors, so from that scene, I saw 7 women, so I could tell that the 7 Doors was linked to these 7 women. Subsequently, we saw Femi Adebayo being called upon by the chiefs of Ilara Kingdom to come and become the Onilara of Ilara Kingdom in, his village. And it was a position that he did not want to accept. He wasn't ready to accept it. But then his wife welcomed the idea. His children were welcome to it as well and decided to go ahead with it. Now, before becoming a king, there are rites that you go through and all of that, fortifications, which Femi Adebayo went through as well. He was being fortified by the priest and was being taken through each of these rites, which we saw was very difficult. It was like a huge task in front of him, which at that point I knew that whatever it is that this Onilara of Ilara position held was indeed a very strong and powerful position for any king, for any Omoba, for any prince to be in. So being called upon to, I think it was time for his family also to come back into reign, and he was chosen. And then in the process of this rites, he was asked to stay in a room and sleep only on his right side, stay in another room and sleep only on the left side, was asked to go into a room where the staff was. It's called Opashe, where the staff was, and he was only to see that staff at the beginning of his kingship. Up until the end of his reign or his death, he shouldn't set eyes on that staff again, at least not when he's still in the position of the Onilara of Ilara. It was a taboo. The day he does that, he will die. That was what we were told in the movie. And the final rite which he had to perform was to knock on 7 doors. Now, they didn't tell us that, they didn't show us anything about that part again until he started his reign as a king. The beginning of his reign was beautiful. Things were going on well in the town, and all of that. He started to put a lot of things in order for chiefs that were taking advantage of people, stealing lands and all of that. He corrected so many things, and he was ready to stand for the truth. He was a king who I saw would stand for the truth and was ready to fight for the people. So, of course, for the people, they were enjoying the king that he had. This is a new king, and they were enjoying his reign up until his daughter died, and things started to, there was chaos in the community. People started to die mysteriously, tragic deaths which couldn't be explained, and they had to seek the help of the priest, who then had to ask the king, have you knocked on the 7 doors as advised by the priest? Which he said no. And at that point he had to further ask, which was how we were shown into what the 7 doors meant. So 7 doors means that the king had to marry 7 wives, which was compulsory as told to him by the priest, which was a thing with each Onilara of Ilara and what they had to do. So the next question, of course, for Femi Adebayo Obadedijore is, why do I have 1 wife already? You want me to have 6 more wives? The question is why? And then he was taken back into the history of his forefathers and what led to that tradition. Now, I'd say that before he became king, the mistake on his part was not asking enough questions. I think that he should have seen, of course, for all of the stress that he was being put through to becoming a king, he even had to fight a particular spirit, and all of that. He should have asked more questions, maybe. But then it was at this point that he started to ask questions, and it took us back into what used to happen with the Ilara kingdom and all of that. So in the previous times, the Onilara of Ilara position was so powerful that princes used to fight to be in that position. And for that time, Kolawole Ajayemi played the role of that particular king, of that particular prince, that while trying to be in the position of the Onilara of Ilara, had killed another prince. And the implication was that he had just 5 years to stay on the throne for. And after 5 years, he was going to die, which he, of course, was afraid for. And after 4 years, he had to seek the help of the priest, who told him to go and meet Esusu. Now, Esusu used to be a human and living with them in the kingdom, but had been banished into the evil forest. Now, things particular to people banished into the evil forest is that they start to wear the character of a lot of evil spirits that live in the evil forest. So they themselves become evil. And that was the case with Esusu, who had been in the forest for a very long time. Now, the then king, Onilara of Ilara, had gone to meet Esusu to seek for more years to live on earth. And that particular king had 7 wives as at then. So Esusu said, okay, this is the option that we have. we're going to kill your wives, and for each of the years that they are supposed to use on earth will be added to your own year so that you would not die. Which the king then accepted, and his 7 wives were killed, which now took us back to the first scene where we saw 7 women being thrown down, and the 7 wives were killed for ritual to buy more years to his years on earth. Now he lived for as long as all of them should have lived. He lived up until old age of being useless, sort of. And at that point, as at the age of 70, the then king he fell really ill, and that was what caused rift between the then king and Isusu. So he had betrayed Isusu by telling the chiefs as a then the reason why he's like this, and all of the secret that he had with Isusu. Isusu, on the other hand, was banished back into the evil forest. Isusu now started to torment the people of Ilara. So for each king that comes on the throne, they're supposed to marry 7 wives, knock on 7 doors, which was how they put it, meaning marry 7 wives to regain the respect, or more like to appease the 7 wives that had been killed by their forefathers. So for Femi Adebayo's family, and why his own kingship or his own reign needed to do that, was because the whole thing started from his family. The king that made this mistake was from his family, and he had to revive whatever it is that king had put the people of Ilara in, which was a huge task before him. We saw all of that unravel. We saw the love between he and his wife start to diminish, and then at a point, it picked up again. And well, I think Amaka really loved him, in that movie, and there was this, chemistry between Femi Adebayo and Chioma that I would never have seen, which only means that the acting was good. They did an amazing job with that one. Their fate was again put to test when their son was going to die, or the prince, the only son or the only child they had left, but they were able to revive him as well. And at the end of the day, Obadiji had just one option. He had to go into the evil forest to fight Isusu, which he was able to do successfully with the help of his forefathers. He had called upon the very first king of Ilara, which was his own, the very first king from his own family, who had helped him in that fight, which was the last scene that we saw in the series 7 Doors. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a sequel to this, but there should be a sequel, because it'd be interesting to, have. I would not really say that the ending was perfect, but I mean, the ending is a stop to whatever it is that is happening, or that had been happening to the people of Ilara as at then, and Obadiji had solved. That was the only option left for him to fight Isusu, which he had done, and he had killed Isusu successfully. So that's the end of 7 Doors. I don't know if there's more. I didn't see that part, but I'm hoping that we get a sequel to it, and it just has to continue. 7 Doors is indeed a masterpiece. This is a one-of-a-kind movie. But then let me go straight into the rating criteria. For the plot, I'd say that I really love the plot development. I love the storytelling. I love the storyline. This is not something like we haven't seen before, but this is something like we haven't seen in a long time. This is like a comeback of the Yoruba industry then. A lot of beautiful Yoruba movies that were being produced back then. It's like I'm seeing that energy now. This is like literally a lot of people, veteran Yoruba actors that have even passed. It's like they're coming back in form of Femi Adebayo to produce great movies, and Femi Adebayo again doesn't fail to disappoint. For the plot development, I really like that. I also love the suspense. I would never have imagined that 7 Doors, meant 7 wives, and taking us back to how a particular king had used the 7 wives for ritual to buy, more time or more years on earth for himself is an amazing storyline. For the plot, I'll give it a 9/10. For the acting, I have to give it up to lots of veteran actors in this movie. Now, I saw the older ones as well. The older ones that I haven't seen act in 4 or 5 years. Lanre Hassan, Jide Kosoko, Dele Odule. It's been a while that I've seen all of them on one set or in one movie act together. And I saw all of these people come together to create a masterpiece. Gabriel Afolayan, Chioma Chukwuka, Femi Adebayo himself, of course, Afiso Etoro, lots and lots of veteran actors. Jude Kosoko, I can't even begin to mention, all of their names, but they did an amazing job. Each character gave birth to each character. And I like how the scenes evolved as well. For each episode, there was a way that the episodes are lined. It didn't seem cut or away from each other. So for the acting, I'll give it a good 9/10. For the theme in the movie, I'd say it was well explored. This is just a movie that I really cannot say, I can't tell it all. This is something that each person has to experience. It's a Yoruba movie, rich in culture, rich in, for the cinematography, the setting, everything was set beautifully. Now, big thumbs up to Akeem Effect. Akeem Effect doesn't fail any day, anytime. But this time around, I saw Akeem Effect in another light entirely. I would say Akeem Effect is international standard, if you ask me. It's doing an amazing job. The makeup almost real. And at the same time, it was as natural as it could be. For the editing, for the soundtrack, of course, the soundtrack gave more meaning, to the film. It added context, it added depth, it added value to the whole of that production. For the it factor, I'd give it a good 9 as well, because this is a one-of-a-kind movie, if you ask me. This is something like we haven't seen in a while. Like I said earlier, 7 Doors is something that every Nigerian has to experience. For the it factor, a 9/10. For the directing as well, it's a 9/10. Overall, from this end, 7 Doors gets a 9/10. It is a must watch. You all have to watch 7 Doors. This is the best of Femi Adebayo that I've seen, and I'm sure that, of course, there's more to come. Now, let me know what you think about 7 Doors, because I totally enjoyed it from start to finish. When you're hooked with 6 episodes, without moving, without stopping, just because you have to finish it, that's how it was for me with 7 Doors. 7 Doors, I was hooked from start to finish of the movie. I just wanted to see it to the very end. And each episode is about 40 minutes each. I sat down there and I watched it. Let me know what you think. If you agree or you disagree with my final verdict, let me know in the comment box. If you've watched it as well, let me know what you think about this movie in the comment box. Now, do not forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe across all social media platforms. It is at RelufeTV. And if you have any movie whatsoever in mind that you love for us to review as well, you can drop it in the comment box. Until I come your way again next time on another episode of RelufeTV Review, my name is AY with the double O.